You're sitting there, same cafe, same seat, same warm cup of coffee. The waitress knows your order by heart. You nod at the regulars, maybe open the morning paper, or glance out the window while time drifts by like it always does. And then, out of nowhere, a young woman walks up with a gentle smile and asks, "Do you come here often?" Now, you chuckle. Maybe think, she's just being polite. But what if I told you, that wasn't just small talk? What if that question, simple as it sounds, is actually a soft nudge, a quiet invitation, a way of saying, "Hey, I noticed you." Let's be honest here, you probably didn't think much of it. Most older men don't. You've been through life, through love, through heartbreak and healing. You've had your time. So when someone new shows interest, especially a woman, you might brush it off, thinking, "No way she's interested in me, not at this age." But that's where most men get it wrong. Because here's the truth most guys never hear. Age doesn't make you invisible. In fact, to some women, your age, your calmness, your confidence, your stories, is exactly what draws them in. You see, attraction in later life doesn't show up wearing flashing lights and loud signals like it did in your 20s. It whispers. It tiptoes in quietly through curious questions, light smiles, shared laughter over the smallest things. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it entirely. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 subtle questions that women often ask older men when they're trying to strike up something more than just casual chat. Not all of them will be obvious. In fact, most will sound so ordinary, you've probably heard them a dozen times, and didn't realize what was really going on. But once you know what to listen for, you'll never see those moments the same way again. So stick with me till the end, because this could change the way you carry yourself in everyday conversation. You might just walk into the cafe tomorrow, and recognize something that's been happening all along. And hey, have you ever wondered whether someone was flirting, or just being nice? Yeah? Then do me a favor, comment below with the words, "It's hard to tell." Let's talk about it in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more real-life wisdom like this, less noise, more truth, go ahead and subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide. We've got plenty more to share with you. Alright, ready to find out what you've been missing all this time? Let's start with one of the most overlooked, and surprisingly powerful, questions a woman might ask you. Are you here alone? Now, on the surface, that sounds simple, doesn't it? Innocent. Casual. You're probably thinking, she's just being polite, or maybe she's making small talk to fill an awkward silence. But let me tell you a story. David, a 71-year-old retired school principal, told me something interesting not too long ago. He was sitting on a park bench, soaking in the sun, watching the world go by, one of his favorite simple pleasures. A woman, perhaps in her mid-50s, walked by, smiled, and asked, "Are you waiting for someone?" He said, "No, just getting some fresh air." She nodded, paused, and then asked if she could sit. 1 hour later, they were still talking, about books, music, life, loss, family, you name it. What started as a tiny question bloomed into a full-hearted connection. And here's the thing, that first question, "Are you here alone?" was her way of checking. Not just if he had company, but if his heart, his time, his space were open. It wasn't about who he was waiting for. It was about whether she had a place in that moment. You see, many older men, maybe even you, hear a question like that and immediately assume, she's just being nice to an old man. We downplay ourselves. We think, I'm past all that now. But the truth is, you're not invisible. You're not irrelevant. In fact, to many women, your calm presence, your life experience, your wisdom, they're magnetic. The problem isn't that women aren't interested. It's that you don't always notice when they are. So, here's what I want you to do next time this question comes up. Don't deflect. Don't shy away or make yourself small. Just smile, genuinely, and say something like, "Not today. But I wouldn't mind some company." That reply? It says I'm open. It invites the conversation to continue without pressure. It plants the seed for connection to grow. Because you never know. That simple question might not be about loneliness. It might be about companionship. And it might be about you. But if that one caught you off guard, wait till you hear the next question. It's subtle, even poetic. And most men never see it coming. What keeps you so active at your age? Now tell me. How would you answer that? Would you laugh it off? Shrug and say something like, "Oh, I'm just trying to stay out of the hospital." Or maybe mutter, "Lucky genes, I guess." That's exactly what Clarence did. Clarence is 68. He's a retired mechanic who still moves with the kind of spring in his step that makes people wonder what his secret is. One day, while reaching for a bag of oranges at the grocery store, a woman standing nearby turned and said, "Wow, what keeps you so active at your age?" He thought it was just a polite compliment, you know, someone being nice to the older guy in the aisle. So he chuckled and replied, "Oh, I'm just trying to keep these knees from locking up." She smiled politely, and walked away. But what Clarence didn't realize, what most men don't, is that she wasn't just commenting on his health. She was admiring him. And admiration, that's not just flattery. That's interest, soft, respectful, and curious. When a woman asks you this kind of question, she's not looking for a medical rundown. She's saying, "You caught my eye." She's saying, "You stand out." Now, here's where most older men miss the opportunity. They dodge the compliment. They minimize themselves. They turn the moment into a joke. But here's what you should do instead. Own it, without arrogance. Try something simple like, "Well, I walk a few miles every morning, stretch when I wake up, and I make sure to keep moving. Staying active keeps me sharp." That's it. Confidence without ego. Strength with grace. And then? Flip it back to her. Ask, "What about you? You seem full of energy yourself." See, that right there turns a brief compliment into a real exchange. It opens the door to a shared moment. It shows her that you're not just healthy, you're also attentive. Engaged. Available. Because here's the truth. As we age, a lot of people expect us to slow down, sit still, fade into the background. So when someone sees you thriving, they're drawn in. And sometimes, just sometimes, that admiration is the first flicker of something more. So next time someone asks you what keeps you going, don't just dismiss it. Respond with heart. Speak with pride. And leave the door open. Because you never know who might want to walk through it. Now, the third question is the kind that slips in so quietly, you don't even hear it coming. It's soft, it's innocent, and it usually begins with 4 little words. Do you mind if? It may sound like nothing, but might actually mean everything. Do you mind if I sit here? Now, picture this, it's a quiet afternoon. The sun's out. The breeze is just right. You're sitting on a bench, maybe at the park or outside the library, letting your thoughts drift in that peaceful way they do when you're not in a rush. Then you hear it. A soft voice, "Do you mind if I sit here?" You glance up. She's smiling, not too much, not too little. Just enough to make it feel warm. You nod, shift over a bit to give her room, and return to your thoughts. And that's it, or so you think. But what if that wasn't just about the bench? What if that simple question, gentle and non-intrusive, was her way of getting just a little closer? Not physically, but socially. Emotionally. What if she chose that spot, your bench, your company, on purpose? You see, studies on social proximity have shown something fascinating. When two people sit side by side instead of across from each other, the emotional barrier between them drops. There's less pressure. Less formality. More openness. So, when a woman asks if she can sit next to you, when she could have easily picked a dozen other empty spots, that is not random. It's a subtle signal. A gentle ask, "Can I share this moment with you?" But here's where it gets tricky. Most older men, being raised in a time when courtesy was second nature, assume it's just good manners. They think, she's just tired. Or being polite. But often, it's more than that. It's a way to start a connection without coming on too strong. A safe, respectful way to say, "You seem like someone I'd like to talk to." So, what do? You welcome the moment. You don't need to force conversation or put on a show. Just turn slightly toward her, give her a genuine smile, and maybe ask something simple, like, "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Or, "Do you come here often?" Yes, that question goes both ways. Then let it flow. Don't overthink it. Don't question your worth. Just be present. Because here's the truth, my friend. Sometimes, a shared bench can lead to a shared story. And sometimes, that story begins with 7 quiet words. "Do you mind if I sit here?" But that's just the beginning of the conversation. Now imagine she turns to you, with real interest in her eyes, and asks, "What did you used to do for work?" That's not just curiosity. That's connection knocking. Let's talk about it. Now here's a question that might seem purely casual on the outside, but it's packed with meaning underneath. What did you used to do for work? It sounds simple enough. But when a woman asks you this, especially in a quiet, relaxed moment, she's not just trying to fill the silence. She's inviting you to tell her who you are, without directly asking. Let me tell you about Thomas. Thomas is a 74-year-old widower. He spent most of his life designing buildings, pouring his creativity into architecture, turning blueprints into homes. One day, sitting at a small cafe downtown, he struck up a conversation with a woman who was visiting from out of town. After a few minutes of light talk, weather, coffee, local spots, she looked at him and asked, "What did you used to do?" At first, he hesitated. He almost gave the usual quick answer, "I was an architect." But something about her eyes, the way she leaned in, like she actually wanted to know, made him pause. Instead, he said, "I used to design homes, but my favorite project was restoring a 19th century library in a little village up north. Took nearly 2 years, but it's still standing." Her face lit up. They ended up talking about history, about travel, about the kind of places that feel like they whisper stories. That short moment? It grew into a real connection. You see, when a woman asks what you did for work, especially as an older man, it's not just about your job. It's about your journey. She wants to know what lit you up, what challenges you faced, what kept you going. It's a way of saying, "I respect where you've been. I want to understand you." But here's the catch. Most men shrug it off. "Oh, I just worked in banking. Nothing special, just kept the bills paid." And that shuts the door before the connection even starts. So, here's what you should do. Don't list a title. Tell a story. Not your entire resume, just a piece of your path that meant something to you. Maybe it was your first job. Maybe it was the time you took a risk that paid off, or didn't. Maybe it was something small, like a lesson your old boss taught you that stuck with you forever. When you share those stories, you're not bragging. You're revealing. You're showing character, not credentials. And that's how you go from a stranger with gray hair to a man with soul, substance, and something to say. So next time someone asks you what you used to do, don't downplay it. Tell them the story. Because your work wasn't just a paycheck. It was part of your legacy. And now, we've come to the last one. The most innocent sounding, and yet, the boldest question of all. 5 simple words. Do you come here often? Let's unpack it together. Because once you hear what it really means, you'll never brush it off again. Do you come here often? Yeah, I know. It sounds like a cheesy line out of an old movie, right? Like something you'd hear at a smoky bar in the 70s. But don't be so quick to write it off, because clichés exist for a reason. They work. You see, this question isn't about gathering information. It's about gently testing the water. It's soft. It's low risk. It's a way for someone to start a conversation without making it obvious that they're trying to. Let me paint the picture. You're sitting at your usual cafe, sipping coffee. You've probably been there a dozen times before, same seat, same view, maybe even the same pastry. Then a woman, maybe a few tables away, strikes up a bit of eye contact. And eventually, she wanders over and says, almost casually, "Do you come here often?" Now, you might be tempted to brush it off. You might think, she's just being friendly. Or worse, she's just making small talk with an old man. But here's what most men never realize. That question? It's not about the coffee shop. It's about you. She's feeling you out. She's wondering if this place, this moment, is part of your routine. Because if it is, that means she might get to see you again. That means she might not be interrupting a one-time outing, but crossing paths with someone who belongs here. It hints at familiarity, comfort, repetition. And more than that, it's an invitation. A signal that she's open to conversation without putting either of you in a vulnerable spot. So how should you respond? Don't joke it off. Don't downplay it. Instead, try something warm. Something simple. I do, actually. I like the peace here. Or, yeah, it's my thinking spot. You? You'd be amazed how easily that little sentence opens the door to more. From there, she might tell you how she ended up in that place. You might discover you both love quiet mornings, or a good croissant, or just people watching while the world wakes up. And that, my friend, is how conversations begin. Real ones. Not surface-level banter. But exchanges that carry weight, connection, and yes, possibility. Here's the key, don't underestimate the quiet moments. Don't assume that, just because the words are light, the meaning behind them is too. Sometimes, the softest questions carry the most intention. Because even now, yes, even in this stage of life, people still long for companionship. For laughter. For presence. For someone who listens and shares. So, the next time someone asks you, "Do you come here often?" Don't dismiss it as nothing. It just might be the beginning of something. Now, we've uncovered the questions. But what about what they mean on a deeper level? Let's take a moment now, to step back from the questions, and talk about something deeper. Because for many older men, the idea that someone might still be interested in them, that someone might look their way and see more than just gray hair, wrinkles, or years behind them, it feels almost foreign. We've been taught, haven't we, in quiet and subtle ways, that romance is a young man's game. That once the suits get swapped for sweaters, and the busy schedules turn into quiet afternoons, the chapter on love and connection has already closed. But my friend, I'm here to tell you, that's a lie we've carried too long. Aging doesn't make you invisible. It makes you refined. You've lived through more than most. You've lost, you've loved, you've failed, you've succeeded. And all those stories? They show in the way you carry yourself. In your steadiness. In your silence. In your smile. You see, There's something incredibly attractive about a man who has nothing to prove, and everything to offer. And yet, so many older men miss these moments. They don't notice the kindness in a glance, the admiration in a question, the warmth in a conversation that lingers just a little too long. Why? Because deep down, they believe they're no longer seen in that way. But you are. So, the next time a woman asks you, "What keeps you active?" or "Do you come here often?" don't just hear the words. Feel the moment. Smile. Open up. Be curious. Be human. Because you never know. What might seem like a passing question could be the beginning of your next beautiful chapter. Maybe it won't lead to romance. Maybe it leads to a warm friendship, or a shared walk, or just a deep, life-affirming conversation. But whatever it is, it starts with you saying, "Yes. I'm open." Because you are never too old for connection. Not for love. Not for laughter. Not for someone looking you in the eye and seeing the whole of you, not just the years, but the soul beneath them. And it all begins with one brave, simple thing, letting yourself be seen. So, before we part ways today, let's take a quick moment to recap what we've learned. These are the 5 subtle questions that many women use, often gently, sometimes unknowingly, to strike up something meaningful with older men. 1. Are you here alone? A quiet way of checking your availability and openness. 2. What keeps you so active at your age? A form of admiration that opens the door to deeper connection. 3. Do you mind if I sit here? A softly spoken invitation to share space, and perhaps, a little more. 4. What did you used to do for work? A genuine interest in the life you've lived, not just the title you held. 5. Do you come here often? The oldest line in the book, but still one of the most honest and revealing. Now, here's my question for you. Have you ever been asked one of these and didn't realize what it meant, until much later? Maybe you brushed it off, or didn't give it much thought at the time. If that's ever happened to you, even once, share your story in the comments. I want to hear it. I read every one. Because here on Elderly Wisdom Guide, this isn't just a channel. It's a community of men and women walking through life's later chapters with eyes open and hearts full. And if you found something here today that made you think, or smile, or even tear up a little, then hit the subscribe button. Not for me. For you. So you never miss the kind of insights that help you stay emotionally sharp, socially aware, and confidently you, no matter how many candles are on the cake. Thanks for watching. Truly. And remember, life isn't over. It's evolving. Stay open. Stay confident. And I'll see you in the next video.